So we'll be doing today's lecture under these headings. We'll be seeing all the ascending tracts. We'll define them. We'll see its arrangement in the spinal cord, which you have already done in the previous class, the arrangement in the spinal cord, types of sensation, and then according to those types of sensation, the tracts which have been classified, we'll see the origin, course, and termination of all these tracts. And we'll see the applied aspect as well. So these are the tracts, out of which the first 3 tracts, this will be done in detail, and the rest of the tract you should be knowing. So beginning with the tracts first. So what do you mean by tracts? So these ascending and descending fibers which are running in the spinal cord, they all organize to form the tracts. So this is a representation of a sensory and a motor tract. So that the first picture is showing the ascending, and the second the motor tract, which is showing the descending tract. So basically tracts are bundle of fibers with same origin. They will all have same origin point. The course will be followed by all these fibers in a similar fashion, and they are going to terminate into a specific area, all those tract fibers, and they will have a common function, both in ascending and the descending tracts. Now we have 2 types of tracts, the ascending one and the descending one. The ascendings are the sensory tracts, which the role is to carry the sensory information to the brain, whereas the motor information from the brain is brought towards the peripheral tissues by the descending tracts. So this is quite familiar picture from your previous class, and you can see on one half you can see the ascending tracts, and the other half you can see the descending tracts. So both ascending and descending tracts, they are both present on both the sides, but for the representation, for the sake of simplifying for the representation, we have divided it into ascending and descending. And this is the particular diagram that you should be able to draw as well when you are asked about to draw the tracts in the spinal cord, its location. Now beginning with today's lecture, which is on the ascending tracts. So it's a sensory tract. So what all sensation does it carry? It carries 2 types of sensation, the somatic and the visceral one. The somatic sensations are basically the pain, temperature, touch, vibration, pressure, and these visceral sensations are pain and stretch. Most of the visceral and very few somatic sensations do not reach the consciousness level. So they are basically useful in the reflex activity. So these are the types of sensation. This is a cut section through the skin. So you can see that if we cut a portion of the skin from your finger, this is just an example. This somatic sensation are going to present everywhere in the body, but this is just an example from your finger. If you cut the tissue, this is how it will look. And these are the types of receptors that you already know from the general anatomy classes. So these receptor, from the receptor level, the sensory information is going to originate. So from the receptor, these sensory information that is going to ascend up into the higher center in the central nervous system, that is what is going to create the ascending tracts. So let us see what are the sensations through these receptor level. So light touch, Meissner's through the Meissner's corpuscles, vibration sensation from the Pacinian, stretch from the Ruffini organ, and the pressure sensation from the Merkel disc, pain, touch, temptation from the free nerve ending. So these are the receptors which are going to receive the sensation and then ascend it upwards in the form of impulses through the ascending tracts. So these are the types of sensations. So pain and temperature, we have seen they were carried by the free nerve endings. So they are going to ascend up into the ascending tract, and the name of that tract is lateral spinothalamic tract. Where do they exactly present? They are present in the lateral white funiculus or the column. Similarly, the other sensation like crude touch and pressure, they are in the anterior spinothalamic tract, occupying the anterior white column. The fine touch and conscious proprioception is carried by the dorsal column, which includes fasciculus gracilis and cuneatus. So this dorsal column, which is present in the posterior or the dorsal white column or funiculus area of the spinal cord. The unconscious proprioception is carried by the spinocerebellar, anterior and posterior spinocerebellar tract, and they travel in the lateral funiculus of the spinal cord, the same picture that you had seen. Now let's see what are these funiculi. This is a cut section, histological cut section, and these are the anterior and the posterior areas. So in this schematic representation, you all know the parts of the spinal cord that had been done already. Now concentrate on this white matter area, which is outer to the gray matter. Arranged into these white matter areas are the ascending and descending tracts both. Today, we are going to focus on the ascending tracts. So how are these ascending tracts arranged? They are arranged in three areas. This is a white matter or the funiculus area anteriorly, which is called as the anterior column or the anterior funiculus. This is the lateral funiculus and this is the posterior funiculus. Similar shown over here in the histological picture as well. Now let's see over here as also in this diagram, a schematic representation that you have to draw in your exam if it is asked. So this is the area of posterior funiculus, which has the fasciculus gracilis in the medial side and fasciculus cuneatus in the lateral aspect. This posterior funiculus is posterior to the posterior aspect of the gray matter. This one is the lateral funiculus area, carrying the various tracts, and this is the anterior funiculus, which is in front of the spinal cord. These are the arrangements in the posterior funiculus that we have just discussed: the gracilis, fasciculus gracilis, fasciculus cuneatus. In the lateral one, we have extensive area of sensation, which is from behind. If we start, this is the posterior spinocerebellar, the anterior or the ventral spinocerebellar, and then inner to it, this is the lateral spinothalamic and the spinotectal and the spino-olivary tract. And in the anterior part, this is the anterior funiculus area, which carries the anterior spinothalamic tract. So the tracts can be divided according to its location into these classification and according to the sensation type that I have already described. That according to that classification also the ascending tracts can be classified. Now, these are the descending tracts that we'll be doing in detail in the next lecture, that is on the descending tract. These are the descending tracts which you should know how to draw it in this spinal cord picture. Now, concentrating on today's lecture, which is on the sensory tract, ascending tract. So now let's learn how these sensations are ascending up into the cortical level or the cerebral level. So first and foremost, what you have to understand is the level of level 1. Level 1 is receptor. And receptor is very important. I've shown the types of receptors and the sensation that it will carry. Stimulus are going to receptors, and the stimulus in the form of fine touch, crude touch, pressure, vibration, conscious proprioception, unconscious proprioception, they are all be received by the receptor level. So this is number 1, receptor. Now number 2, what is number 2? This is the first order neuron. This is called as the dorsal root ganglion, and you know this by histology and general spinal cord lecture that the dorsal root ganglion, where it is located, what type of neuron it is a pseudo unipolar, because it has a one process which further divides into two. So this is not unipolar, not bipolar, it's called as a pseudo unipolar. First order neuron, the location in the dorsal root ganglia. Now look into the processes of this dorsal root ganglia. This is the peripheral process, and this is a central process of this dorsal root ganglia or the first order neuron. Its peripheral process is synapsing with the is at the receptor, receiving from the receptor level, and its central process is going somewhere. It's going above in the spinal cord or the brainstem level and synapsing with another neuron, which is the second order neuron. So this arrow is the second order neuron. Its central process of the dorsal root ganglia is synapsing with the cell body of the second order neuron. So cell body of first order neuron was here, and the cell body of second order neuron is right here in the level of spinal cord or brainstem. So second order neuron lies in the brainstem as well as spinal cord, depending upon which type of ascending tract you are talking about. Now the third order neuron in this order. So this from the second order neuron, this is its axon and ending into its processes, and this processes of the axon of the second order is synapsing with the third order cell body of the third order neuron. And where it lies? It lies at the level of thalamus. You'll learn about the part of thalamus, which particular nucleus. I'll come into this in subsequent part. Then this third order neuron ka axon will then reach the level of central nervous system, which part the cerebral cortex, and the part of the cerebral cortex is the somatosensory area. This is a very simplified schematic representation of sensory pathway. If you have understood in this, then it will be not difficult for you to understand the rest of the tract. So what do you have to understand? These all levels of sensory pathway. So this I've already explained. Now let us see in a cut section. If we see the cut section, coronal section through the central nervous system. So this you can see this is the median fissure, and this will be the cerebral cortex. So this is the area of cerebral cortex, followed by the these brainstem area, and over here these are the two cerebellum, and this lower down will be the spinal cord. In the brainstem also, you know, first will be the portion of the midbrain, then the pons, and then the medulla, and medulla will continue to spinal cord. The midbrain, pons, medulla will be done in detail after we finish the tracts. So now let us see the three orders of neuron that we have just discussed. So this was the sensory ending, but which was at the receptor. So this is the receptor, and over here this will be the peripheral process of the first order neuron, and you can see dorsal root ganglia over here is the first order neuron and its central process, and this blue dot over here should be the second order neuron, right? And the second order neuron, this oftenly the axon process, and to the opposite side. So most of the sensory tracts, they are all relaying into the contralateral opposite side of the cerebral cortex. So suppose from the left finger, if the sensation started, the representation, it will reach which? The right cerebral cortex, right? So this is now ascending higher up from the spinal cord level to the brainstem, and this axon will synapse where? It will synapse, the second order ka axon will synapse into the third order, which is where? Into the thalamus. And from the thalamus, this is the axonal process, which is going to relay where? Into the somatosensory part of the cerebral cortex, right? So this is the three orders of neurons that if you understood this, it will be easier for you to understand. Now, this we have already done. Receptors were the first one to receive the sensation, and these sensation transformed into nerve impulses. And these nerve impulses are then carried through three sequential ordered neurons in this fashion: first, second, and third order neurons. Now we come to the this is the only the diagrammatic representation in the sections also. The cell body, where was it located? The dorsal root ganglia of the spinal nerve. This was the first order neuron, and this arrow marked structure is its peripheral process, which is receiving from the receptor level, and which is basically the afferent fibers from the receptor, and this the next arrow was the central process, and the central process is then relaying onto the second order neuron. Central process which relayed onto the second order. Where is the second order neuron? It can be in the dorsal horn. It is in the dorsal horn of the spinal cord. Now the second order neuron, this was the arrow marked area. This was the second order neuron. The cell body was in the dorsal gray column. And as I've told you, it can be, depending upon the type of ascending tract, it could be in the brainstem also. For example, gracile and cuneate nuclei or cranial nerve nuclei, right? And this is the axon. The next arrow is showing the axon of the second order neuron. And where will the axon of the second order neuron will relay? It will terminate into the thalamus. And in the thalamus, what is there? The third order neuron. So this is the third order neuron, which is located in the cell body lying in the thalamus, and its axon are projected to the postcentral gyrus. Just now you did your demonstration on the external surface of the brain, so you know where this third order neuron is. The axons are projecting onto the primary somatosensory cortex, area 312. Now this is the according to the sensation that it's carrying, the pain and temperature, they are carried into the spinothalamic pathway, the lateral spinothalamic. Touch can be two types: simple touch, the crude touch, and the fine touch, discriminating touch. This will be carried, discriminating touch will be carried by the dorsal column, which is also called as the medial lemniscal pathway, also carrying conscious proprioception. The crude touch is carried by the anterior spinothalamic pathway. Unconscious proprioception is carried by the spinocerebellar, dorsal and ventral spinocerebellar. So this is just the same thing, ascending tract. So we'll go one by one to each tract, and we'll be concentrating more onto this dorsal column, spinothalamic one, and the spinocerebellar. So these are the three tracts which we'll be doing in detail, apart from the rest of the tracts. So starting with the dorsal column. So in the dorsal column, the sensory modalities, I've told you the tract should be done in origin, course, and termination. Also will begin from this receptor level and the sensory modalities that it is carrying. So what were the sensory modalities from the receptor level? They are the fine touch and tactile localization, and 2-point discrimination. 2-point discrimination means if the patient is asked to, if he's touched at 2 different points, he should be able to differentiate between those 2 points of touch. And localization means where exactly the touch sensation has been sensed by the patient, that he should be able to localize. Fine touch means very fine touch, like when you touch from a cotton bud. That is how you will test for the dorsal column. This is a fine touch. Conscious proprioception. Now let us understand what is proprioception. Proprioception is the sensation of the body position and joint movement. Suppose you are sitting right now, right? Now try to move your great toe. Move your great toe, and you know where your great toe is lying. And when you vibrate it, the vibration sensation is missing over here. I have not written, but that is also carried through the dorsal column, right? So any part of the body, like when your eyes are closed and you know where exactly your joint, for example, shoulder joint or your finger is lying, that sensation is called as the conscious proprioception. Now, dorsal column is defined into 2 fasciculi area, the fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, right? And the different parts of the body is represented into those areas. We'll come to this point again. So we'll start with the receptor level. So I've told you, you have to do the tracks in this order. In the origin, you'll start from the receptor level and the sensory modalities. So we have talked about the sensory modality. Now we talk about the receptors. So these are the receptors for the touch, 2-point discrimination, and proprioception and vibration. Vibration is also the sensory modality for the dorsal column. Vibration of any part of the body, the patient is able to sensation of the vibration can be sensed by the patient. That is the vibration sensation. So from this receptor level, now understand this pathway. Now from this receptor level, now let's see, if suppose this is from the lower limb. So this is suppose the lower fiber, the sacral and the lumbar fibers. And this is the trunk level. Suppose this is the upper limb and the head and neck. So the thoracic or cervical fibers, suppose, right? So from the lower limb, the sensations which are coming from the lower limb, they will be starting from the receptor. They will be received by the first order neuron. This is the first order neuron. And this first order neuron, what is this process? This is the peripheral process. So the sensation will be received by the peripheral process of this first order neuron. And look into the difference right here. This is the first order neuron from the trunk level, and this is a first order neuron for the lower limb. So suppose sacral fiber I'm talking. Sacral fiber ka jo sensation hai, that will be received by the peripheral process of the dorsal root ganglion over here. And what about the trunk? Trunk ka jo jayega, that will come lateral to it. So if you can see the arrangement, this is the central process. The central process is going where? Into the level of the spinal cord. This is into the posterior funiculus it is reaching, and it is creating a fascicula over here laterally. So the fibers from the lower limb are going to ascend more medially over here. You can see this is ascending in the medial aspect of this fascicula. The higher the fibers, higher the segment, suppose from the trunk and upper limb and the head and neck, what will they do? The fibers, the central process, are going to take up more lateral positions. This is the somatotopic representation of these fibers, right? So more the lower fibers, the sacral fibers, they will be more medially present, and the higher fibers like cervical, thoracic, they will be more laterally present. So this is the first order neuron from the receptor level, the cell body, which is lying in the dorsal root ganglia. The central process, the peripheral process, had received the impulses from the receptor, and from the central process, it is entering into the spinal cord, and which is close to the medial side of the posterior horn, and is ascending in a fasciculus. These are the 2 fasciculi, fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus. So more lower fibers are going to ascend more medially, more higher fibers are going to ascend more laterally. So without relaying into the posterior horn, because they are the sensory, they are actually traversing into the posterior column. So this tract which is going above, these constitute the posterior column. The medial one, the posterior, the fasciculus gracilis; the lateral one, the fasciculus cuneatus. So this, we come to this area when we started, the fasciculus gracilis, the medial one is going to receive fibers from the lower half of the body, which coccygeal, sacral, lumbar, and lower thoracic segments. Fasciculus cuneatus, which are more the laterally present, they are going to receive fibers from the upper thoracic and cervical spinal segments. So, right, so we are doing somatotopic representation along by this side by side. So first order we have done. Now where will we reach according to the sensory pathway? We will reach now into the second order neuron. Where is the second order neuron? I have told you second order neuron in a sensory pathway could be in a spinal cord level or at the level of the brainstem. In case of the dorsal column, it is lying at the level of the brainstem. Where exactly in the brainstem? The cell body is lying in the level of medulla. This is a cut section of medulla. I know you have not seen the medulla right now, but this will be followed. So this is the posterior and the anterior aspect of the medulla, and this very characteristic corticospinal tract. The pyramidal tracts are lying most anteriorly, and posteriorly when you see these fasciculi, which is running from the spinal cord level and also into the medullary level, at the level of the medulla, they end into the nuclei. So this is the level of the nucleus cuneatus and nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus in the lateral aspect. So we are thorough till this point that the fasciculi were ascending up. More lateral ones, remember, were the upper fibers from the upper part of the body, and more medial one were from the lower part of the body. Now what happens is they are going to, suppose this one, we are talking about the upper from the trunk fiber, so upper thoracic and the cervical fibers, they are laterally ascending into the fasciculus cuneatus, and the axon will end into the lateral nuclei, which is the cuneate nucleus. Can you see? This is the area of cuneate nucleus where we have several cell bodies, and these cell bodies of the neuron are basically the cell body of the second order neuron. So second order neuron is lying where? It is lying in the cuneate nuclei and the gracile nuclei at the level of medulla. So I think you are understanding this point, how they are synapsing over here. And when they have synapsed, the axon of this second order, the arrow is at the second order, the axon of the second order neuron will turn ventromedially. You can see this is the anterior aspect, this is the posterior aspect. So this fiber is turning anteriorly and medially, and when they are turning, this axon will be called as now the internal arcuate fiber. This will be now termed as, when this axon part will be termed as internal arcuate fibers, right? So internal arcuate fibers, now they have to cross. I've told you the crossing, this sensory tracts will all cross at the level of spinal cord oblique brainstem level. Here we are talking about brainstem, so they are going to cross at the level of the brainstem, that is medulla. This is called as sensory decussation. Now remember the somatotopic representation. Over here when we see this is from sacral, lumbar, thoracic and cervical. This was the distribution at the level of the fasciculi and at the level of cuneate nuclei. But at the level of internal arcuate fiber, this, when they have crossed, you can see they are crossing also in such a manner that the more medial fibers, that is the sacral fibers, when they cross, they reach where? They reach more anterior part of the medulla. And the more lateral fibers or the cuneate fibers, they are reaching where? At the most posterior part of the medulla. So can you see this blue area over here? These are the arrangement of fibers at the level of the medulla. After sensory decussation, they are now arranged in the form of lemniscus, which we call as medial lemniscus. I'll explain this because this is difficult part. I'll explain it again. So after decussation, the fibers now from the medulla has to ascend up into the higher level of the brainstem and to the spinal cord, to the cerebrum it has to reach. So how it will reach from, this is the level of decussation, sensory decussation. So from here, when these fibers, these two fibers, you can see when they are ascending up, now they will not be called as the fasciculi, they will be called as the medial lemniscus. So this is the medial lemniscus, which is ascending upwards through the medulla, pons, midbrain, reaching where? Reaching at the level of the third order neuron, which is located in the thalamus, right? In the thalamus, this is the third order neuron. So the axon are going to synapse with the third order neuron right here in the thalamus. So I'll come back again to this point, the sensory decussation level, because it's quite difficult, but I've tried to simplify it. So this ascending fibers are now called as the medial lemniscal fiber, the axons of which are now actually synapsing with the third order neuron, terminating in the thalamus. Now let's simplify this. What are internal arcuate fibers? So this much part we have done, that how the body was represented in the gracile nucleus and the cuneate nucleus, as well as in the fasciculus, gracilis and cuneatus. How was the body representation? Remember this picture. This is a picture diagrammatic representation, head over here, lower limb over here. So the somatotopic representation is the lower limb onto this medial part, and cuneate wale part mein which will fibers, the head and fibers, the upper thoracic and the cervical fibers. So basically, what are internal arcuate fibers? The axons of the second order, these are the axons of the second order. Second order neurons were right here. Axons of the second order neuron turns ventromedially and decussate. Decussate matlab it crosses to the opposite side in the midline. Okay, and the only catch was what? The more medial fibers from the gracile nucleus, the ye wale fibers will cross and arrange more anteriorly, and cuneate wale, jo lateral wale, they will go more posteriorly. So now look into this representation over here. The head is represented more posteriorly and the lower limbs are represented more anteriorly in case of the medulla. Now, what is medial lemniscus? This internal arcuate fiber. Arcuate fiber is from this point till this point after sensory decussation, this point. Now, once they will ascend up, higher up, the arrow is showing the ascent. Similarly, this is the opposite side. So when they, after they have reached to the opposite side, they are going to turn now in the upward direction, and when they upward directly they are directed, they are called as the medial lemniscus, and they will going to ascend higher up till the level of the thalamus. So the third order, now we come to the third order neuron. So this is the third order neuron located where into the level of the ventro-posterolateral nucleus of thalamus. There are many nuclei of thalamus, you will learn later. So this is a ventro-posterolateral nucleus of thalamus where all the sensations, all the sensory impulses are relayed. So axon of this is now going to terminate into the sensory area. Now this, see the same jo lower limb wale the jo anteriorly chale gaye the medial lemniscus mein, those anterior fibers, see they are projecting where into the more medial aspect of the somatosensory area. And ye jo cervical or upper body wale fibers, they look into here, their somatotopic representation in the sensory cortex, they are more onto the lateral aspect. So their axons are going to travel through a very important structure which is called as the internal capsule, the posterior limb of internal capsule, and terminate in the sensory area of the cerebral cortex, which is the post-central gyrus, area number 321. So we are done with the sensory pathway. A little summary, this was the fasciculus, gracilis and cuneatus. So this will be the fasciculus, gracilis, and this will be the fasciculus, cuneatus, and this is how they are ascending up. Once they have decussated, once they are decussating from to the opposite side, they are crossing over at the level of the medulla. These fibers will be called as the internal arcuate fibers. Once they have decussated or crossed and they are ascending upwards, they will be called as a medial lemniscus. So the sensory pathway dorsal column is also called as the fasciculus, gracilis, cuneatus and medial lemniscal pathway, right? So this is the summary. From the receptor to the first order to the fasciculus, then relaying into the second order, internal arcuate fibers, medial lemniscus, reaching the third order neuron, reaching the somatosensory area, from the receptor level to the dorsal root ganglia, which is the first order neuron, carrying from here the axons will be now termed as the fasciculus cuneatus and fasciculus gracilis, reaching the medulla, second order neuron, which is the gracile nucleus and the cuneate nucleus, then decussating to form the internal arcuate fiber, sensory decussation, medial lemniscus after decussation, and reaching the third order neuron, which is ventro-posterolateral nucleus of thalamus, reaching the sensory area in the same somatotopic representation, that is the leg represented medially and the trunk area or the cervical region represented laterally onto the somatosensory area. So we are done with the pathway, the origin termination course of the posterior column. Now let's come to the somatotopic representation of the body. So this I've already explained how the fasciculus gracilis has the fibers are receiving the fibers from the lower half of the body, which are the coccygeal, sacral, lumbar, and lower thoracic spinal segment. This is in the same order. And how in the fasciculus cuneatus more laterally, the fibers are received from the upper thoracic and the cervical spinal segments from the upper half of the body. Now let's see the same somatotopic representation in the medial lemniscus also. This again I've showed how sacral, lumbar, this is simplification, thoracic and cervical representation, and this is how. So if you remember this picture, you will remember the somatotopic representation. Very simplified, I've tried to. So this, the cervical, you can see, cervical means from the upper part of the body, you can see they are the internal arcuate fiber, they are decussating in such a manner that they will be present more posteriorly. And the sacral, which were more medially in the fasciculi and the nuclei of the gracile and cuneate, they will be represented more anteriorly at the level of the medulla in the medial lemniscus. Now again the same simplification with the representation of the body over here, head end posterior, lower limb anterior in case of medial lemniscus, head end laterally, and lower limb ends into the medial aspect. So this is a simplified way by which you can see remember the somatotopic body representation, more medial fiber sacral, more lateral fiber cervical, and medial may anterior and posterior in this order. So this single picture will determine you the somatotopic representation. So we are done with the posterior column, and this is the summary. And each one of you should be able to identify the column in these headings. What type of sensation? Please add vibration sensation also over here. And receptor, first, second, third order neuron, whether it is crossed or uncrossed. If it is crossed, which level it is crossing, destination, where exactly it is going, and the pathways, fasciculus, gracilis, cuneatus, medial lemniscal pathway. And this was the last slide that I showed the fasciculus, somatotopic representation of the body. Now we come to the lesions of the dorsal column. The lesions of the dorsal column, it's basically the dorsal column fibers. They are myelinated fibers. So any demyelinating disorders are going to affect this tract. So this is the most common, the Tabes dorsalis in the late syphilis infection. This infection is going to affect the posterior column, along with vitamin B12 deficiency, which is also a demyelinating disorder, along with multiple sclerosis. What will happen? The posterior column, you can see in this picture, the posterior column will be affected. These tracts will be affected. Which tract? The dorsal column tracts will be affected. So what will happen? And also certain tumors and degenerative disorder and vascular, this you will learn later. So these all will affect the posterior column. And what will happen if this dorsal column is affected? Suppose it is affected at the level of T8. If it is affected at the level of T8, what will happen? There will be loss of position vibration sense below the level of lesion. Remember, it will be below the level of lesion, because remember, ये fibers, lower वाले fibers, sacral fibers ऐसे करके ascend जा रहे थे. T8 वाले फाइबर यहाँ से ascend करके ऊपर जा रहे होंगे ना, तो ये अगर इस लेवल पे है, तो ये नीचे वाले सारे एरियाज में you will have loss of sensations. Which all sensation? These all sensation which we have covered. And because the conscious proprioception is also carried, so when the patient eyes are closed, the patient will fall because proprioception sensation has lost. And remember, they are so these are the sensory symptoms, the sensory ataxia. This is called as the sensory ataxia that I was talking about, loss of proprioception. And remember, अगर एक side का cut हुआ है, तो contralateral side, opposite side will be affected. ठीक है? So loss of fine touch pressure and sensory ataxia. These are the symptoms with which the patient will appear. So this is in brief: loss of position, sense of lower limb leading to loss of equilibrium. This is the loss of proprioception, posterior column ataxia or the sensory ataxia. Tactile stimuli will be still felt, little bit still felt, because they are carried by other tracts as well, spinothalamic tract. This is the test which is called as the Rombox test, which we do to check for the proprioception. So the patient is asked to stand with his heels together, and पहले उसको eyes open रखनी है, then he is asked to close his eyes. So, and the observer is standing behind. So when the eyes are open or closed in both the condition. If the patient is swaying or is falling, that means cerebellar deficit is there, cerebellar ataxia. And if the patient is swaying only when the eyes are closed, this is called as positive Romberg sign. This is a positive Romberg sign, which is in the posterior column lesion, proprioceptive deficit, the sensory ataxia. Because when eyes are open, the funda behind it, when the eyes are open and the cerebellum is intact, he can still receive the proprioception, unconscious proprioception. But if the eyes are closed, because this is for the conscious proprioception, so the patient will sway, will fall. So this is the Romberg's test. Now this is how a patient when comes, you can test for the posterior column. Fine touch के लिए क्या touch करा सकते हैं? You can touch the cotton bud for the fine touch, and for the proprioception, the patient when he's lying down, you can move his great toe, and at certain point you can stop and then ask the patient ki, where is your great toe? If he is able to answer that, that means the proprioception is intact. Also for the Romberg's test, this is the Romberg's test that I've just told you for checking for the proprioception. This is how the patient is with eyes closed, the patient is falling. This is positive Romberg's test in case of posterior column deficit. This is called as a tuning fork. Tuning fork से हम vibration कर सकते हैं, and vibration के बाद when this fork is vibrating, कोई भी एक bony prominence, distal bony prominence पे put this fork over here, and the patient is able to sense the vibration. That means posterior column intact. If he is not able to sense it, then it means posterior column lesion is there. Now the rest of the tracts which are there in the lateral funiculus, we have already seen the position of these tracts. Now let us do the posterior spinocerebellar tract first, followed by the spinothalamic tract. So posterior spinocerebellar tract may the modalities, we'll always start with the modalities first. So unconscious proprioception. This is an uncrossed fiber. This is the only tract which is sensory tract, which is uncrossed. In the previous tract, we had seen 2 neurons were involved, but here, 3 neurons were involved, but here only 2 neurons are involved, and they terminate in the ipsilateral cerebellum. So let's start with the receptor level first. The receptor is from the muscle spindle, Golgi tendon organ, because proprioception ke liye, nahi? And then the first order neuron. So this is the receptor. You can see this is the first order neuron where the cell body of all the sensory pathway, the cell first order neuron will be located where? Into the dorsal root ganglia. So the cell body is right here in the dorsal root ganglia. This is the peripheral process and this is the central process. So the peripheral process receives the impulses from the muscle spindle, Golgi tendon, all the proprioception impulses, and its central process are going to end where? Into the nucleus dorsalis, Clark's column. इसी का expanded view. This is going to end into the Clark's column or the dorsal gray horn of the spinal cord. And then it is going to ascend up over here. We had seen the location over here in the lateral funiculus, the posterior spinocerebellar tract. So these are the first order. Now let us see where the second order neuron is. This arrow marked area is the second order neuron, and these are the neurons of the Clark's column, which the Clark's column is at the level of C8 to L3 that you know, and their axon is then going to ascend upwards and form which tract? It will form the posterior spinocerebellar tract, and they will ascend onto the same side of the medulla, same side of the brainstem, and then from the medulla there is peduncle which is called as inferior cerebellar peduncle. So through inferior cerebellar peduncle, it will reach, basically peduncles connect the cerebellum with the brainstem. So this is the inferior cerebellar peduncle, this is middle cerebellar peduncle, this is the superior cerebellar peduncle connecting midbrain to the cerebellum. Inferior cerebellar peduncle connects the medulla to the cerebellum, and the middle cerebellar peduncle connects the middle part of this brainstem, that is the midbrain, to the cerebellum. So through the inferior cerebellar, this dotted line is the inferior cerebellar peduncle. Through this, it will reach the ipsilateral, means same side cerebellum, into the vermis part. So this is the course of the posterior spinocerebellar tract. Now what happens is at level of L3, the proprioception fibers are going to terminate in the Clark's column, that we know. But above C8, what is there? There is no Clark's column. So proprioception fibers from the upper limb and the neck cervical region will not have any nucleus to terminate, because Clark's column is not there. So the fibers will travel with the fasciculus cuneatus in the posterior funiculus and ascend to medulla to terminate in the accessory cuneate nucleus. In the medulla, there is accessory cuneate nucleus also. So this accessory cuneate nucleus से जो fiber जाएंगे cerebellum तक, these are called as the cuneo-cerebellar tract. And these fibers are called as the posterior external arcuate fibers. We have learned about the internal arcuate fiber in terms of dorsal column. So these are the fibers, axons of the accessory cuneate nucleus, which create the cuneo-cerebellar tract, posterior external arcuate fiber. Now, what is the function? They are uncrossed and they are going to bring about the unconscious proprioception. Now, anterior spinocerebellar tract. Anterior spinocerebellar tract is crossed. When you think that it is crossed, you will suppose that it is going to end onto the opposite side of the cerebellum, but that is not the case because this anterior spinocerebellar tract crosses twice. So you can see it is crossing once it has crossed, and then it is crossing again to reach the same side of cerebellum from which the sensation started. So it's a cross tract. It carries unconscious proprioception and it helps in coordination of movements and posture because of the unconscious proprioception. So let's see where the first order neuron is lying. The first order neuron of the anterior spinocerebellar again will be in the same location, the dorsal root ganglia, and its central process will be then over the end into the dorsal gray column, lamina 5 to 7 of coccygeal to lumbar segments of the spinal cord. Then the second order neuron is over here. This is the second order neuron, which crosses twice. I've told you it crosses, but it crosses twice. So the first cross, this is the first cross. This has crossed to the opposite side at the level of the spinal cord. So all these levels of crossing you should remember. So it has crossed at the level of spinal cord and reached the opposite side of the brainstem. Right, reach the opposite side of spinal cord and then reach the opposite side of the brainstem. Now, the second cross will be at the level of midbrain. This is the midbrain, and this crosses at the level of midbrain and ends where it crosses through the superior cerebellar peduncle, and it crosses through the superior cerebellar peduncle and reaches where? To the cerebellum itself. So this is how the anterior spinocerebellar tract is going to cross twice and will reach the same part of the cerebellum from where to the same side from where it started. So this is in brief the anterior spinocerebellar tract, which we have already done. And so two level of crossing were there at the level of spinal cord and at the level of midbrain that it crossed. So this red tract is denoting the anterior spinocerebellar tract, and the blue one is denoting the posterior spinocerebellar tract. Now let us see the same picture that the same table that we have done with the posterior column. This is how they are. The posterior spinocerebellar tract you will learn about this in this same fashion. And for the anterior cerebellar, when you are saying it is crossed, you will mention at what level the crossing is taking place. Anterior commissure spinal cord and second cross at the level of the midbrain. Now the lesions of posterior spinocerebellar tract. The lesions of posterior spinocerebellar tracts is called as the cerebellar ataxia because there is disturbance of posture and movement. There could be reduced muscle tone and incoordination of muscle action. This Romberg's test, I've told you, this positive Romberg's test when the patient's eyes are closed and the patient is swaying, this was in the sensory ataxia. That was dorsal column affected. But when the patient's eyes are open and then also the patient is swaying, even with open or closed eyes, that means it is the cerebellar ataxia. Now coming to the third part, this is the last part of our spinal ascending tract, that is the spinothalamic tract. So they are two, lateral and anterior spinothalamic tract. The pain and temperature are carried by the lateral spinothalamic tract, and they are the cross tracts, arises at all the levels of the spinal cord. So the receptors are, the pain receptors are the free nerve endings and bulb of Krause and Ruffini for the cold and warmth response. So temperature and pain, remember, they are carried by the lateral spinothalamic tract. The first order neuron, remember all the sensory will have their first order neuron in the dorsal root ganglia of the spinal of the spinal cord. So this is the peripheral process which were ending the free nerve endings, and this is the central process which reached where it reached the spinal cord. And when it reached the spinal cord, this is quite different, that when it reaches the spinal cord, it ascends 1 or 2 segments higher up in the dorsolateral tract of Leisure. Where is the dorsolateral tract? Over here. When the posterior column is over here, so uske saath jo hota hai, that is posterior column, posterior horn ke piche, this is the dorsolateral tract of Leisure. Over here, it may ascend higher up before it synapses with the spinal cord. So remember this point. This is ascend, it enters the spinal cord but ascends 1 or 2 segments above to be synapsing with the cells in the substantia gelatinosa. Now this is the second order neuron which is lying at the level of the nucleus proprius. Now axons of this second order neuron, they are going to cross. So in the posterior column, the cross was happening at the level of brainstem medulla. Over here, spinothalamic, it is the cross is happening at the level of the spinal cord. So into the anterior wide commissure, crosses over to the opposite side and lying over here in the picture of the tract, you had seen the location of the lateral spinothalamic tract. And when it ascends, it is ascending in the form of the lateral spinothalamic tract. So it has reached the medulla, it has reached the upper and lower part of the medulla, pons, midbrain, and finally it will reach into the third order neuron, which is at the level of the thalamus. When it is ascending through the brainstem, it aligns itself near the medial lemniscal pathway, and this is called as the spinal lemniscus. When it is ascending up into the level of the brainstem, it is quite near to the medial lemniscus. Now, this arrow is denoting the third order neuron, the cell body of the ventro-posterolateral nucleus of thalamus, and from here the axon are projected to the, in the similar fashion, the somatotopic representation that I've told you about, the body representation in the cerebral cortex projected to the primary somatosensory area. So all the tracts will be projected to the same terminal area, that is the primary sensory cortex. Now anterior, we are done with the lateral spinothalamic. Anterior spinothalamic tract carries the, this is actually crude touch and pressure. So the crude touch and pressure is carried by the anterior spinothalamic tract. And the receptors are the free nerve endings, Merkel's disc, and the first order neuron again will be the dorsal root ganglia. The second order neuron will be in the spinal cord level, and they are going to decussate in the similar fashion and is going to ascend up, but in a anterior funiculus. Lateral was onto the lateral funiculus, but the anterior spine, this is the only difference, that it will ascend up into the anterior funiculus and joins the spinal lemniscus and will relay into the ventro-posterolateral nucleus, right? So now we come to the somatotopic representation. This somatotopic representation of the dorsal column we had already seen, sacral to cervical. Now coming to the lateral spinothalamic tract, the sacral fibers will be more outer and the cervical fibers will be more inner. Now look into the same half over here. This is the representation of the spinal cord, and this is denoting, this B is denoting the lateral spinothalamic tract. Now see the representation of this nucleus. This nucleus is represented over here. You can see how the lateral ones are the lower fibers and the upper part of the body represented, the cervical fibers are more inner. So this is the somatotopic representation of the lateral spinothalamic tract. Each somatotopic representation is important. Why this is important? For example, any tumor which is progressing from the middle side, so they are going to affect the sacral fibers in the posterior column. Any tumor or any injury, if it is affecting the superficial areas of the lateral spinothalamic tract, so the lower body fibers, sacral fibers, are going to be affected first. So this is why the somatotopic representation of the body is important. So we have talked a lot about the sensory cortex area 312, but how it looks, how the body is represented. This is that picture showing how the body is represented. This is the medial aspect of the, this is the median fissure of the cerebrum, and this is the superolateral surface of the brain. So the medial surface represents this lower part of the body, and then it's superolateral in this order. From representation of the body is actually from above downwards. If you can see, the downwards area of the superolateral is actually represented by the up higher body parts, and the lower body parts are represented more higher up. And also the areas which more movement, skilled movement, they are represented more, like in the hand area is more as compared to the gross movement areas of the body. So this is the flow chart of the lateral spinothalamic tract that you should know. This we have already discussed, where crossed, but at where level it crossed, that you should be able to know which pathways, lateral spinothalamic, spinal lemniscus. So this is the tabulation chart which each student should write and remember for your exam. And this was the anterior spinothalamic tract, same crossed, but it ascended in the, it ascends in the anterior funiculus area. So this all, everything in this flow chart you should be able to know. Now coming to the lesions of the spinothalamic tract. Now remember, unilateral lesion, whenever there is unilateral lesion, either it is a posterior column lesion, lateral spinothalamic tract lesion, any lesion, when it is unilateral, the opposite side of the body will be involved. So loss of pain and temperature from the skin of the opposite side of the body below the lesion will be involved. Similarly, in the posterior column, if any particular side is damaged, the fine touch, pressure, vibration, sensation of the opposite side will be involved. So remember, because they are sensory, all sensory are, majority of the sensory are crossing to the opposite side. So this will have, the patient will have, so suppose these are the area of the lesion that I've marked. So over here, if the unilateral damage is taking place on one side of the tract, the pain and temperature sensation of the opposite side below that lesion level will be affected. Now look into this picture now. Now what are the common causes which causes lateral spinothalamic tract lesion? They are the multiple sclerosis, any penetrating injury or compression from the tumors, because this is a location, it is quite superficially located, and so any penetrating injury over here, any tumor which is compressing it from this side, or multiple sclerosis, this is a disease which is affected. So you can see this is a pin over here. So this is denoting a pain sensation. Okay, so this is the dorsal root ganglia. So this is how second order neuron were ascending up to form the spinothalamic tract. So if this has been damaged from this side, so the opposite half of the body pain sensation of this side of the body, left side of the body, will be damaged. So lateral spinothalamic tract will lead to contralateral loss of pain and temperature. Similar was the case with the posterior column. Now let's see what are the pain. Actually, pain is very important sensation in the body because it warns us about the injury. If suppose you don't have the sensation, you can imagine how much injury you can cause to yourself. So the receptors which carry the pain are called as the nociceptors, right? And the cause of the pain is actually any injury to the tissue. When it happens, it releases some chemicals like prostaglandin, serotonin, and histamine. These all chemicals are released, and these chemicals excite the nerve endings. Any excessive dilation of structure or viscera, this can also lead to pain. You can see, you have heard about the parotid gland swellings. So the excessive dilation to the capsule, they can also cause pain. Excessive muscular contraction, muscle spasm, they will all lead to pain. Hello. So just a moment. So this pain fibers, the pain fibers, they release glutamate and substance P in the posterior horn. So what will be the treatment? Treatment of pain will be certain chemicals which will release the inhibit of these release of substance P and glutamate. So drugs like morphine and codeine, analgesics, they act on these principles. Local anesthesia, what will local anesthesia do? It will block the conduction. Surgically also you can relieve the pain by cutting the posterior roots of spinal. Now this is a very treatment of choice in terminal cases of cancer, but the drawback is all sensation will be lost. Cordotomy. Now there is a pain theory, gate control theory of pain. Before I start this gate control theory of pain, I would like you to know about the counter irritants. Has anybody learned about the counter irritant or liniment? For example, for headache, what do you apply? A counter irritant. Many local drugs are available. So you apply balm onto your head. So what are they doing? So they actually what is happening with the help of a counter irritant is Pain is also, for example, this is the touch, deep touch. This is carried through, the touch is carried over here through the dorsal column or the medial lemniscus. Painful stimulus is also carried through its lateral spinothalamic tract, and both are reaching the spinal cord level and then ascending up to the sensory cortex, right? So what will happen if the pain impulses which are going through the neurons giving origin to the spinothalamic tract, they can be suppressed by exciting the interneurons through stimulation of tactile fibers. So these are the tactile fibers and these are the pain fibers. Both are reaching the spinal cord and then they are ascending about. What will happen with the counter irritant? What will you do? The pain signals are interrupted because over this area, if I expand over this area, now this is the tactile fibers and these are the pain fibers. In between, you have some interneurons. This is an interneuron, and the cell body of the interneuron jo hota hai, that synapses with the processes of the tactile fibers, and its axon are actually synapsing with the pain fibers. So these tactile fibers basically stimulate these inhibitory neurons. These inhibitory neurons, if they are stimulated, they are going to inhibit the pain sensation. So they will be, you can block actually these pain impulses. So by stimulating tactile stimulation, you can block the pain sensation, right? This is what is the gate control theory of pain. If the tactile stimulation is stimulated, the tactile fibers are stimulated, they will stimulate this interneuron, which will have an inhibitory effect on the pain. So this is how the counter irritant or balm or the liniment for any pain is applied, causes the control of pain. Now, lateral spinothalamic tract lesion with the cordotomy surgical treatment that I was talking about, when the cutting of anterolateral white columns, this will relieve the pain fibers. And remember, the fibers are more anterior and superficial to the fibers of temperature. And this is done at the level of cervical level to relieve very cancer pains of head and neck and thorax. The other tracts are the spinotactile, spino-olivary, and spinoreticular. The initial three tracts that I've discussed in detail were very important for you. You should know about these tracts as well, a little bit about these tracts. So this black is showing the spino-reticular one, and this red tract is showing the spinotactile, and this is the blue one is the spino-olivary. They will have their termination at different levels. So we'll see the termination of these tracts. So we'll start with the spinotactile first. As the name suggests, it will arise from the spinal cord level and finish where? In the tectum. Tectum is the area in the midbrain, which is the superior colliculus, where you have the superior colliculus. So this is actually the pathway for, this is the spino-visual pathway, the spinal cord connected with the visual pathway, spino-visual pathway. So they are going to help in certain reflexes which will lead to movement of eye and head towards the source of stimulation. Right, when there is any source of stimulation, you're automatically, reflexly, your eye and head also turn towards the same side. This is done by the spino-visual pathway, by the spinotactile. So the body, the eyes and the head suddenly turns towards the source of stimulation because of the spinotactile tract. The spinotactile tract, again, this dorsal root ganglion will arise from the dorsal root ganglion, the first order neuron, and its peripheral process. The central process will terminate in the posterior gray horn. From the posterior gray horn, they are going to terminate into the superior colliculus level. So this is how through spinal reflexes, the eye and head movement is coordinated towards the area of stimulus. Now we come to the spino-olivary. Spino-olivary is equivalent to spinocerebellar tract because they also carry the unconscious proprioception, spino-olivary. Spino-olivary tract, which is demonstrated over here in this blue color, spino-olivary. So this spino-olivary is carrying the unconscious proprioception, and its first order neuron, as in everywhere, will be from the dorsal root ganglia, and central process are going to terminate into this spinal cord, dorsal gray horn in a similar fashion. And the second, they are going to end in their third order neuron will be where? Into the inferior olivary nucleus. They are going to end, as the name suggests, spino-olivary. They're going to end into the inferior olivary nucleus, right? And this inferior olivary nucleus then will terminate into the cerebellum via the this was the inferior cerebellar peduncle. Through the inferior cerebellar peduncle, they are going to terminate into the cerebellum. This is the last one, spino-reticular fibers, which actually form the part of ascending reticular activating system. They are uncrossed fibers and some crossed fibers also. So they basically that you should know about this is that they are part of the ascending reticular activating system. So now we are done with all the tracts. I have tried to summarize the main important tracts also, the three main important tracts, the dorsal column, spinocerebellar, anterior posterior, spinothalamic, that you should be well versed with. These are the questions that you can be asked. Lemniscal system, we will talk about both medial and spinal lemniscus in that. Describe pain pathway. So thank you. In the next lecture, we'll be doing the descending tracts in tomorrow's lecture.